A wife wants a trial separation. The husband adapts as best he can. It was obvious the moment I stepped through the doorway. Something had upset Darla. She stood in the living room, wringing her hands and shifting her weight from foot to foot. I had seen her do this often enough in our 24 years of marriage to recognize that there was a problem. Darla usually gets home from her job at the dental office about half an hour before I do. She typically uses that time to start dinner and change clothes. Today, however, she was still in her work clothes, and the kitchen was devoid of any pleasant cooking smells. When Darla changes her routine, something is definitely wrong. "Dick, we need to talk," she began nervously.
Welcome to the Dark Side channel. Dive into the world of human relationships, mistakes, and right decisions. Don't miss out. Subscribe and join our growing community.
"Of course, dear," I replied quietly, sinking into a chair, putting the ball in her court. "What's going on?" "I don't have an easy way to say this, Dick, so I'm just going to blurt it out. I want a separation and possibly a divorce," she declared bravely. "I think a trial separation would be best, but with the understanding that it might lead to a divorce in the future." "All right, dear," I responded calmly. "I'll move out immediately." As I rose and headed to our bedroom, I saw Darla's jaw nearly hit the floor. I think she expected more discussion and questions from me. Throughout our marriage, I have always enjoyed responding to situations differently than Darla expected. To this day, she never stops being surprised. She was predictable, but I was not. If my immediate acceptance of her desire to separate caught her off guard, my return to the living room less than a minute later, with 2 large, fully packed suitcases, nearly knocked her over. I placed the luggage by the door, pulled a piece of paper from my pocket, and handed it to Darla. "Here's my new address and phone number. You can still reach me on my mobile. I have just one condition regarding the separation. If you get involved with anyone else, we'll proceed with the divorce immediately. If you're just trying to find yourself, as they say, we can get back together once you do. I'm not okay with you just fooling around a few times without consequences and then deciding you want me back," I warned her. "One strike and you're out." Before Darla could speak, I pulled out my cell phone and dialed a number. "Hi, Becky, it's Dick. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner with me on Friday," I asked. "You know the answer, Dick," Becky laughed. "I'll be there, but I might forget to wear any underwear." I smirked, closed the phone, opened the door, and grabbed my suitcases. I left a stunned and speechless Darla standing in the living room as I casually walked down the path to my car. Though it wasn't a fancy dinner, Becky and I enjoyed a good steak before retiring to my apartment. She had just brought me to my third when the phone on the bedside table rang. Keeping me snugly in her cozy love nest, Becky leaned over and picked up the receiver. "Hello?" she answered breathlessly. "Darla, can he call you back in a few minutes? He's in a bit of a tight spot right now and needs to relax a bit. But I think I can hurry him along. Be a sweetheart and give him half an hour, just in case the train arrives at the station a little later than I expect, okay?" With that, Becky hung up the phone. "Damn," she exclaimed. "I never realized how exciting it would be to talk to a woman while I'm with her husband." This time, I joined Becky in the finale. I waited a few minutes for my heartbeat to return to normal. Then I leaned over to the phone and dialed the number that was mine just a few hours ago, my home number. "Hello?" Darla nearly shouted, answering before the first ring had even finished. "Is that you, Dick?" "Yes, it's me, Darla. Sorry, I couldn't reach the phone when you called, but I called you back as soon as I was free," I replied, more than a little smugly. "What the hell is going on, Dick?" Darla demanded. "You already had a place to stay and your suitcases were packed before I even told you I wanted a separation. Then I call your number to discuss our situation, and that beach answers my call. Let's just say I didn't want to be caught with my pants down this afternoon when you decided to tell me about your desire for a separation. Being caught with my pants down a few minutes ago is much less unpleasant. Becky isn't really a beach. At least I don't think so," I smirked. "I guess I could ask her if that's important for deciding whether we're reconciling or not." "You bastard!" Darla blurted out. "You told me we weren't going to sleep with anyone else while we were separated. This is just a trial." That's not exactly what I said, Darla, I countered. I told you that if you got involved with anyone else, we'd definitely get divorced. I never said anything about me not doing it. You're a real piece of work, Darla snapped. Why do you think you can play by different rules or even set the rules? If you can go off and sleep around, I sure as hell can too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander and all that, Dick. Of course you can, Darla. I'm just telling you it will definitely lead to our divorce. I won't be made a cuckold, I stated firmly. Then we should get divorced because you slept with her, didn't you? Darla asked. I think we should file for divorce on Monday morning. That seems fair, doesn't it? Not exactly, Darla. Here's my reasoning. You decided that we should separate. That meant I was cut off from my intimate partner against my will. You did this of your own volition. That's a huge difference. Besides, I told you in advance that I'd divorce you if you slept with anyone else. You never said anything like that to me. Finally, despite all this, you still have every right to file for divorce. If you want to, go ahead. It's that simple, I concluded. But I'm not sure I want a divorce, Dick. I just want a separation to think about some things, Darla insisted. Then there's no problem. We're separated. You have what you want, I concluded. But you're sleeping with that tramp, and I can't sleep with anyone else, or you'll divorce me. That's not fair, Darla complained. Darla, I didn't ask for the separation. I didn't want it. I wanted my life and my wife as they were. Well, almost. You took that from me with the separation. I'm saying I won't go without intimate life because you have some bug up your ass. If it makes you happy, you can come over here 3 or 4 nights a week, and I'll keep you satisfied. By the way, I don't plan on sleeping with every woman who might agree to get in bed with me, I reasoned. And what kind of separation is that, Dick? I've never heard of a couple separating, and the woman still allows the man to sleep with her to keep him faithful. Then it wouldn't even be a separation, would it? Darla demanded clarity. I haven't read the manual on separation, Darla. I see I need to be more precise here. If you decide to come over and force me to sleep with you, be ready for it. I'm firm in my stance that I won't let your idea of separation curb my appetite like our marriage did. I now openly admit that I enjoy all the various positions and actions. I don't want you lying there like a log for a few minutes as if you're making some huge personal sacrifice and then expect me to stop sleeping with real women, I explained. If you want to show up at my door to satisfy my hunger, bring a whipped cream and some lipstick and a few other items because I'm thinking of all the possible ways, I promised. What is wrong with you, Dick? All I wanted was a separation to see if we should stay married. In just a few hours, you've turned into the devil. You're crude, rough, and vulgar. You must have been cheating on me for years behind my back. Bullshit! I've never cheated on you, and I didn't ask for this separation. I'm just trying to find myself. Right now I've found myself with a woman. We can talk again tomorrow, I joked, hanging up the phone. Wow, Becky laughed, taking a few breaths. You lay down the law for your wife. Did I hear her call me a beach? I have always been an observant person. It came naturally and was useful in many ways. It prevented a lot of surprises that constantly tripped up most people. My wife, Darla, on the other hand, noticed almost nothing. Darla was very enthusiastic about a new dentist who had joined the clinic where she worked. He was in the final stages of divorcing his unfaithful, cheating wife. According to Darla, he was practically a saint. Then a few weeks ago, Darla stopped talking about him. Any questions I asked were deflected. It was as if this new guy had fallen off the planet. Darla's silence about him worried me more than her incessant chatter. Our phone was bugged, conversations recorded, and her emails forwarded to me. I hired a private investigator to see what he could find out about the situation. Judging by all the evidence, a clear picture of seduction emerged. Dr. Burns, as he was known professionally, was trying to get to Darla. He was divorcing because he did the same thing at his previous clinic. There were even a couple of his former patients who were close to accusing him of unethical conduct. The guy was a scoundrel. To her credit, Darla had been resisting so far. She refused to cheat on her husband and break up the marriage. That's when Burns started pushing her towards a separation. He claimed that Darla wouldn't be cheating if she were separated and had love with him. Hence, my strict warning to Darla about sleeping with anyone else. If she cared about staying married to me, she'd have to keep this creep at bay. Becky had been my coworker for only a few months,
but we had become fast friends. She was a widow who had recently been transferred to the West Coast to be closer to her daughter and grandchildren.
When I explained to her my family issues with Darla and my plan to bring the situation to a head, Becky quickly volunteered to be the other woman. Reading Darla's emails and listening to her phone conversations, I found out that she was planning to announce the idea of a trial separation on Friday afternoon. It wasn't difficult for me to go home at lunch and pack a couple of suitcases. Then I moved into Becky's apartment since she had 2 months left on her lease. On Monday afternoon, she was flying to the West Coast, so we spent the entire weekend like rabbits. I continued to monitor Darla. I would have seriously left her on the side of the road if she had even done anything with Burns. I was a faithful husband and a devoted father to our son and daughter. They had graduated from the local university and had good jobs in neighboring states. I wasn't going to become a cheater or a playboy. I decided that if Darla wanted me back, she'd have to convince me it was worth it. I wasn't going to beg. If we managed to stay married, the status quo wouldn't return. I wanted more from my marriage than just a pity shag every couple of weeks. I wanted a woman who was ready to meet my desires and occasionally raise the stakes. I wasn't going back to a monastic life. I had just gotten back to my apartment after dropping Becky off at the airport when there was a knock on the door. I was more than surprised to find Darla standing there, crying. I led her into the apartment and sat her down on the couch. I sat next to her and waited for her to speak. It took a couple of minutes, but eventually, she composed herself and told me what was on her mind. "Dick, I've been so foolish. It probably won't surprise you when I tell you that Dr. Burns has been persistently hitting on me for the past few weeks. You seem to know more about who I am than I do. He convinced me to ask you for a trial separation so we could have love," Darla admitted. "He told me that if we were separated, it wouldn't be cheating, and that you'd even treat me better when I decided to take you back." "Everything went completely off the rails? You were ready, your suitcases packed, a place to stay, and someone to be with. And then I came in with my brilliant idea. I'll never understand it. But I've been thinking so much about what I did. I should have known you'd be light years ahead of me. When I called you on Friday night, and that woman answered and almost admitted what you were doing with her, I nearly died. Then, when you called back, I knew you had just finished with her. It hurt so much, Dick," Darla sobbed. "I spent the entire weekend thinking about what you said. I gradually realized that you honestly laid out the situation for me. I was the one who asked for the separation, not you. I planned to spend a few nights with Ed Burns and then let you crawl back home. You would have been just an unconscious victim of my foolish scheme." Darla didn't have the sharpest mind, but she had always been honest and open. That was one of the reasons why her recent actions had caused so much alarm. She wasn't made to be sneaky and deceitful. That just wasn't her. "It turned out that you weren't an unconscious victim. You somehow knew what I was planning and turned everything on me. In an instant, everything changed, and now you were having an affair without any guilt or remorse. I would have lost my marriage if I had slept with Ed." After several hours of thinking and even more crying and self-pity, I realized what I was trying to do to you and to us. I even understood your quick and very effective response to my foolish, selfish, and utterly undeserved actions. You got me good, Dick, but I deserved it. I decided to tell the good doctor this morning when he came to work that he had crossed a line," Darla concluded. "So you just scolded him and expected me to forget about everything, Darla?" I asked. "Am I supposed to forget that you were ready to risk our marriage for some damn scoundrel? That you were willing to put me through hell because some jerk wanted you? Darla, you're a beautiful woman. There are plenty of men who would jump at the chance to be with you. Do I now have to worry that you'll do this with every man who looks at you kindly?" "No, Dick. I didn't just scold Burns this morning. When he arrived, a couple of police officers were waiting for him in the parking lot. He was arrested and charged with rape and who knows what else. One of our patients, Mrs. Gunn, claims he molested her while she was under anesthesia. The investigation prompted a couple more women to come forward with reports of inappropriate behavior from him." "He's nailed," Darla grimly smirked. "That's the piece of crap I was risking everything for, Dick." "I can't say I'm surprised, Darla. It was pretty obvious to me that he was a sleazy hound with the scruples of a street cat. Now that he's out of the picture, do you think I'll just forget everything? No, Dick, Darla replied slowly. I was hoping you'd keep your word if you didn't lie to me. I've never lied to you, Darla, and I always try to keep my word. I just don't understand what you mean, I responded, confused. You told me that I could come here 3 or 4 nights a week, and you'd be with me. You said that would save you from having to persuade other women to share your bed, remember? Darla asked. Yes, now I remember saying something like that when you brought it up, I admitted. I also told you that things wouldn't go back to the way they were. You would need to be actively involved, not just lying there and letting me use your body. That doesn't really appeal to me, especially after experiencing the thrill of having each partner trying their best to please the other. Sorry if that hurts you. I think I understand what you mean, Dick. Maybe you can help me learn to be more responsive. I'll do everything she did for you, and even a bit more. I promise you that, Dick. If you promise me that you'll never see her or any other woman again, I'll be the beach you want to be with or can handle. Becky was probably flying over Colorado at that moment and had no intention of ever coming back. I didn't know any other women who would let me be with them, and I truly loved Darla, so the decision was clear to me. Agreed, Darla, I vowed. There won't be any other women as long as you're my personal beach. I emphasize the word personal. I won't tolerate you even flirting with another man without my explicit permission. No problem, Dick, Darla squealed. I can't believe you're willing to give up that other woman for me. But I'm so glad you did. You won't regret this decision, Dick. I can't wait to be your little beach and learn what I should have been doing with you and for you for the past 20+ years. Oh, and here's proof that I'm serious, my dear. With that statement, Darla reached into her purse, pulled out lip gloss, whipped cream, and a few other items, and placed them on the table. Honey, is there any particular order you'd like to use these products? Darla asked with a seductive smile. Thanks for watching the first story. We have another one for you. Enjoy watching. At 4 o'clock sharp, there was a knock on the door. I gathered my courage and opened it to find Megan standing there. Megan had come to ask me for another chance at reconciliation. Not in this lifetime, bitch. To manipulate me into agreeing to cheat on me with vile lies, to destroy our family. Her lover's already crawled away with a broken nose and a pending divorce. Mary, too, is long gone. Even though she completely pecked my brains out in those 2 days after the confrontation at the restaurant, I threw her out on the street after I heard she had an abortion so he wouldn't interfere with her being with some soccer player 9 years ago. I knew she was a cheating ____ before, but with this horrible confession, our friendship was over. I laughed in her face as she begged me to forgive Megan. People like you, always banding together to protect each other. Come in, Megan, I said coldly to my soon-to-be ex-wife. She walked into the house, nervous and unsure of herself. She didn't look well. It was obvious she didn't sleep much and cried often. Her eyes were red and her hair, though brushed, was dull and unkempt. What I had learned about her deception and how she and her friend Sylvia had set me up, as well as how she had been served divorce papers in a restaurant, after which I had left in the arms of her old rival, had shaken her to the core. She finally realized that the pain she was going through was the same pain she put me through. Please, don't do this, Jack. Stop the divorce, she begged. If you give me a chance, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. It was hard to believe I'd ever loved this cruel and selfish. A woman who conspired with her friend to drug and fuck me, all to blackmail me into being a cuckold. She hurt me so bad it was like she ripped my heart out. If you want any forgiveness, I want to know everything about this case. And don't you dare lie to me if you do. We're done, I demanded when she sat down. Tell me what the hell you were thinking when you made your plans with Sylvia to humiliate and destroy me. Megan stiffened, agony in her eyes. Tears ran from her eyes as she spoke, in a breaking voice. Believe me, Jack, I only love you. I've never stopped loving you. I know it's hard for you to believe, but it's true nonetheless. It had nothing to do with you as a father, husband, or lover. If I could, I'd call the whole thing off. But I can't. I screwed up, Jack. But it wasn't what it seemed. I never meant to humiliate you. Blah, blah, blah. Same old story of cheating women. Nothing new. It was exactly as I said, but I want to hear your side of the story, I responded, aware that this conversation was being recorded. She began recounting the sordid details, admitting that she and Sylvia had meticulously planned everything, drugging me to set me up for blackmail. Despite the pain I endured, they proceeded with their scheme. She confessed that she had fleeting thoughts about the possibility of me not being able to handle the pain and potentially harming myself. But even those thoughts did not deter her from their plan. She was entirely consumed by the insane fantasy of trying Steve, who was highly praised by Sylvia and other women at the club. She described everything in such detail, as if she was confessing. Then, I asked the question that bothered me the most. Why in our home, Megan? Why in our bed? Did you hate me so much that you wanted to punish and humiliate me? Why rub my face in your infidelity? You knew perfectly well that I never cheated on you. You could have gone to a motel and spared me the humiliation. The more fervently I asked questions, the more Megan bowed her head, her shoulders slumped. There was a long pause, and eventually, she whispered so quietly that I could barely hear her. It was Steve. What? Speak up. Steve demanded it, she shouted. As soon as he learned about our plan with Sylvia, he insisted that everything happen in our marital bed and that you be nearby to see and hear everything. He repeated this over and over, saying he would only participate if it happened that way. At the time, I was so caught up in the anticipation that I didn't dare oppose him. And you claim, my faithful wife, that you didn't want to humiliate me. What else can this be called but humiliation? How could you? Steve means nothing to me. He didn't vow at the altar to forsake all others, but you did. You, the mother of my children. How could you allow this to happen? She remained silent, staring at the floor, and I realized I needed to know nothing more. I had what I wanted. I abruptly stood up, grabbed the recorder from the shelf, and left, leaving Megan staring at me with her mouth open in shock, not understanding what was happening. I drove straight to the police station and informed Sergeant Burke that I wanted to report a crime. He was already aware of the situation, as he had filed a report on the altercation with Megan's lover, Steve Adams, in which I defended myself and broke his nose slightly. He immediately called the duty capture team. Megan was arrested at my house and transported to the police station in a patrol car. With her confession recorded, it took the police less than an hour to break Megan. She broke down in tears and admitted everything that she and Sylvia had done to me, including drugging my drinks. The drugs were provided by Sylvia, as one of her ex-boyfriends was a dealer and had left her with a small stash after he dumped her. The divorce proceedings were relatively straightforward after that, given that my unfaithful wife and her conniving best friend ended up in jail. A sympathetic judge threw the book at Megan, sentencing her and Sylvia to 3 years in prison for blackmail and drug distribution. I was granted full custody of the kids and the family assets for their upkeep. 6 months later, Steve Adams was attacked. Some unknown guy in a dark tracksuit and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, despite it being nighttime, stopped him in a parking lot after he left a club. For some reason, the assailant didn't take his money or watch, but knocked him down with a punch to the face and repeatedly kicked him in the groin. Now, rumor has it that Lower Steve can no longer look at the stars, only at the ground, but who cares? There were so many cuckolded husbands that the police never figured out which one did it, and they probably didn't try very hard. Sergeant Burke filed another report, and the case was closed. Well, life goes on. Go figure. For a while, the kids missed their mother, but they loved their new stepmother and soon forgot about Megan. All my friends were surprised when I started dating my children's 18-year-old nanny, but Kelly had grown into a beautiful young woman and had secretly fallen in love with me while caring for my wonderful children. We got married in a modest ceremony a year after my divorce from Megan was finalized. Throughout our married life, She never gave me any reason to be jealous, and I reciprocated. 30 years and 2 more children later, we are still happily married. Fortunately, Kelly didn't turn out to be as unfaithful as Mary and Megan had been.